Hello, happiness abounder, and welcome back. Today, I want to elaborate further on yesterday's episode discussion all about living by a societal checklist. And if you haven't caught that episode, that's okay. Check it out. It's only 10 extra minutes. But if you don't have that extra 10 minutes, then short version, are you living by someone else's checklist? Because you want to please them and you don't want to be kicked out of society. That's the short version. But yesterday's episode, I asked you to start paying attention. Have you been living by a checklist you've defined yourself? And by checklist, I mean the action items, the things that you check off to feel like an accomplished adult or human being. For many people, that checklist is defined by society, and that can be your parents, that can be your teachers, family, friends, etc. But usually it's pretty standard. Go to school, get the degree, find a spouse, get married, find someone to marry to, get married to, right? Buy the house and have kids. And then that's kind of it. Then your societal checklist is done and you feel like you should be happy, but maybe you aren't. And that might be because you lived by this checklist that you bought into, that they said it would help you be happy. And so you did it also because you didn't want to be cast out and you wanted to please people in your actions and be accepted. So, if that sounds like you and you've looked at that in your life, you've examined based off of yesterday's episode, today I want to talk about the reasons why for the checklist. I want you to dive into those checklist items and ask yourself, why is this on my list? So let's use the traditional conventional list. Why is going to school and getting a degree on your list? Now, the first response may be because that's what I want to do, or the career that I want to have requires a degree. Okay, that's fair. I can buy that. But let's go a little deeper. Why do you want that career? I want that career because it'll make my parents happy. I want that career because it's reputable and people will look at me with respect. I want the career because it's great money. Don't know if I really like it, but it's great money. Why do you want a career that's reputable? Why do you want a career that people will look up to you, respect you on? Because I want people to see me. I want people to accept me because I don't want to be cast out. Right? Now, granted, there's probably a lot in the middle there, but you get the direction I'm taking. You don't have to take it negative either. It can be, this is the career field I want to go into. Why? Because when I was little, I loved doing X, Y, and Z, and this career encompasses that. And so it brings me back to my childhood, and it brings me back to what brings me joy and flow. And the fact that I can get a career in this, and it just happens to require a degree, I'm so excited to go to school for. Very different responses there. One is on the people pleasing side of the scale, while the other is on the I'm doing this for me because it's my own happiness and joy side of the scale. So I want you to ask why. Now, I'm going to share an example from my personal life. Some of you may or may not know this, but I actually was married before I was married to my now husband. And I got married very young. I got married at 20, and the marriage lasted about 4 months, but it took about a year to be fully divorced. And we had dated for about a year and a half, 2 years previous to getting married. So I was very young and didn't know any better. And I thought, well, here's this person that I found, and I need to marry him because it's next on the checklist. And it's wildly unfair to this individual. But also, I was living by this mad desire to be happy. And I had bought into the fact and the thought that, like, well, here's the checklist, but while I'm doing the go to school step, I could get married step, and that will make me happy, and we'll save up and buy a house, and then that will be the next step, and then I don't really want kids, so that may or may not be on the table. But really, like, there's that scope, there's that checklist, and these things will make me happy. So the first thing I need to do is get married as soon as possible so my happiness can start. Get married as soon as possible so people will look at me like I'm established and I'm not a 21-year-old. 20-year-old, actually. I just wasn't thinking clearly. And I had bought into the checklist. And I don't necessarily believe in mistakes or regret. I believe they're all learning opportunities. So I can't say it was full out a mistake, but it was not necessarily the right choice for me that I would choose for myself now. In fact, if I was going to choose it for myself now, I never would have seriously dated this person. We were very much polar opposites. But I thought that's what I needed, because I'd been following the checklist that somehow, some way, somehow I had implemented into my life. And it took going through divorce, being incredibly angry about a lot of things for a really long time, remarrying to my now, getting married, right, to my now husband, and really a huge happiness and personal development journey to discover my own checklist and what that looks like. And that checklist does not follow the normal conventions. And in fact, it kind of goes the opposite. My husband and I got married, then we bought a house, now we're starting businesses. Like, it's what's working for us. It's my checklist. It's his checklist. But when you don't follow your own list and your own path, and you start to follow someone else's or the societal path, it's important to ask why. I married this first person because I just wanted somebody to make me feel validated and loved, and I wanted to be quote unquote happy, and if I followed this checklist, I would be. And my parents would be proud of me because they would say that I was married and off living my life as an adult, which also was a lie. They were like, please don't get married. But you get where I'm going with this. Ask yourself why you're doing the things you are doing and dive deep. Don't take the high level stuff, and don't take I don't know as an answer for yourself. Really discover why. And if it's because it brings you joy, it energizes you, it brings light to your life and excitement, and it gives you positive butterflies in your tummy, then that's something that should be on your personal checklist. But if it's dreaded and it's got weight and it doesn't feel quite right once you start asking yourself why, and all the whys are about people pleasing and following an imaginary list, then that's probably a time to reevaluate those decisions and that path. Now, I'm not saying there is a right or a wrong, but I'm saying there's a right and a wrong for you, and you need to determine and figure that out. So start by evaluating your checklist. If you have not listened to yesterday's episode, please do so. It's episode 427. It's a great segue into this one. And once you've figured out kind of those things and those choices on your list, I want you to dive in and ask why you are doing it, and that will help you determine if you should or should not continue moving forward. So, that said, have a wonderful day. If you like this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe to your listening podcast platform of choice, or share it with a friend who may need it. Is there a 21-year-old or 20-year-old in your life who's thinking about getting married? Maybe share this episode and my story with them. Might help change things. Might save them. So that said, have a wonderful day. And above everything else, remember, you are capable of happiness abound.